Let's go to the Thunder line now, and we're saying good morning to Edward Coon. Edward, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm well.
Doing good. It's great to talk to you. Former Sullivan BOCES student, and you're visiting BOCES today. Your first talk is 8:30, coming up in a little bit, correct?
Yes, sir.
Well, it's great to have you back. Again, well-known author, current book, Eclipsed, Destination Unknown. It's your fourth published book. Tell our Thunderheads a little bit about your writing and a little bit about your time at BOCES and what you're going to be talking to the folks at BOCES about today.
Well, I had come to BOCES from Fallsburg High School.
Mm-hmm.
As a youth growing up in Sullivan County, it was, things were a little tough. And so back in the day, I was kind of a cross between Jesse James, James Dean, and Elvis Presley.
All right.
And I just kind of had that, the quarterback attitude.
Mm-hmm.
And had get myself into a little bit of trouble over at Fallsburg.
Mm-hmm.
And they had given me the choice to come to BOCES. And so I came to BOCES and, still had a little bit of that rough edge.
Uh-huh.
And after being here for about a year, I found out that not all people are the same, and there are teachers out there that are very amazing and that, actually care about their students.
Mm-hmm.
And so as time passed, I had participated in different things here at BOCES. One year, we had done a school Christmas play, which I think kind of has to do a little bit with my success today because I actually played a reporter.
Mm-hmm.
And then, we had things like, student-teacher basketball games and things like that to where, the students and the teachers really had the opportunity to interact with one another and not just see each other as student and teacher, but, more on a one-to-one basis and really reaching out and, a little bit further than most boundaries go when you have students and teachers and making that connection.
Mm-hmm.
And so, through that, I learned a lot of about being compassionate and taking trust and going the extra mile and just really making that difference out there.
And obviously, with the books that you've written, books that you're known for, those experiences translated into the words that have helped so many others.
Yes, sir. So the story, this particular book. So I've lived in Fort Collins, Colorado, since the early '90s,
mm-hmm.
and about '92, I took a loss in my life. And it didn't impact until early '93, and so, for a while there, I was kind of on the outs, and wasn't very sociable. And then I started thinking back to the words. My English teacher, Mr. Bob White, had said to me the last time I had seen him in school, and he always said, "Always remember Huck Finn." And Huck Finn, I'm sure that you've read the story. It's not just a story, but it's filled with lessons and morals and, making a difference and doing the right thing. So I kind of took a step back and realized that it wasn't all about me, but it was about making a difference. And so for over 20 years, that's what I did in Colorado up till about 1999. And in 1999, I was actually teaching driver's education. And Columbine High School in Denver
mm-hmm.
Had experienced one of the worst school shootings in history. And I had just pulled up as the incident was unfolding. Wow. And with that, I had officers come in, and I hadn't really been listening to the radio, and people are scattering everywhere, and the officer told me to get out of there. And so I did, and I called my office, and they informed me of what was actually going on at the school. We didn't teach for about 2 to 3 weeks, and then when we resumed, we actually had people who some of my students, were talking suicide. And I wanted to do something to help, to make that difference. So I had put together this 12-page, stapled together at the edges, very redneck-looking pamphlet that I typed up at home on my computer, which was the basis for this bigger story. And so I passed it out, and to students that were saying these things, and even to some students that approached me and asked me for copies of this particular story I had written. And so I did that, and time passed. And a few years later, I had gotten a call from a gentleman from Branson, Missouri, who actually received a copy of this pamphlet that I had written. And as I say, he had contacted me, and so I drove all the way from Colorado down to Branson, Missouri, which is a great place. Don't know if you've had the opportunity, but it's really nice. And the gentleman and I started discussing things. Well, I'm also in the country music field, and so I'm figuring this is what he wants to talk about, something that I had written. And then he passes me an envelope and asks me to open it up, and so I opened. Here's one of these pamphlets that I wrote.
Wow.
And he goes on to tell me this inspirational story about how the person that had written this had saved his niece's life. And he said, are you the driver's education teacher who was teaching at this particular school? And I said, yes, sir. And I said, this is my pamphlet, but how did you get it? And he told me about how she was so inspired by what I had written that it changed her life, and she sent it to him. And, of course, time went on, and he had asked me to write a few chapters to tell more of the story, because basically what was written was just the facts to make a quick impact. And so a little bit more time went on, and it kind of got pushed off the shelf. Life happened, and back in about 2007, 2008, this gentleman had contacted me again, asked me if I had ever written the book, and I said no. Things just kind of happened. And he told me he had someone that was very interested in the story, wanted to publish it. And so I stepped forward and went ahead and wrote it all up. And it was supposed to be released in 2012. And unfortunately, that publisher went under. But then a gentleman from that represents Thomas Nelson Publishing had called me for 2 years and telling me how he had heard about this story, and they were really inspired by the story and how it had happened. And then, of course, he had earlier in 2012, before the book was supposed to be released, he had heard about my walk across the United States to inspire the nation. And so he said, with all these things together, and how the story itself had come to be through the eyes of tragedy, and through experience and trust, that this is the type of things that actually inspire people. And so I had sent them the manuscript, and they officially released it this past December. And some of the reviews that have been said about the book, I'm actually very floored, but yet very honored. Now it's not a religious book by any means, but it is an inspirational story. I had a former professor from Tahlequah, Oklahoma, who had lived through the Great Dust Bowl, and I guess kind of back in that time frame, they also had a huge flood, and he had lost 3/4 of his family to smallpox. And I'm not sure, but I think smallpox was called yellow fever or something back then. Didn't really research it too much, but I know it was pretty bad, and so he had lost, much of his family. And he had said that the book actually had given him faith and hope for a better tomorrow.
Wow.
A Pentecostal minister from the Missouri area had actually quoted it as the ultimate modern-day story of forgiveness, which, when she told me that, my jaw kind of dropped.
Mm-hmm.
And then, do you remember Molly Brown?
Yeah.
One of Molly Brown's former editors, at the age of 88, had quoted the story, a story as old as time itself, but yet as fresh as the morning dew. It was a story told long ago, and is a story that will be told for years to come. And the latest quote, they're actually calling it one of the most powerful inspirational stories in 300 years.
Wow.
Is the latest thing I had heard on this, and that was probably about a month and a half ago. And I'm just, I'm amazed have written something to inspire other people. And but had I not grown up here in Sullivan County,
Mm-hmm.
I don't. I think that the story may have existed, but may have been a little bit different.
Gotcha.
If you're meant to do something in life, eventually, it'll come to pass. Everything has a plan, everything has a time, and, life eventually does come around, but sometimes, unfortunately, we have to have something kind of hit us in the face, open our eyes to go out there and make that difference. And, being raised in Wurtsboro, up in the mountains, it was a little bit rough at times.
Right.
And to sum up some of my hours, I actually used to ride.
Yeah. Hello? Oops.
Do we lose him?
I think we might have. Oh, what's in me?
There
you go.
There.
I used to ride my bike 37.5 miles from Wurtsboro all the way out to Jeffersonville every day after school.
Wow.
To see a gal that I had actually met at Bosie's.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
And also through the school helped me back then get my first job working at the Rock Hill Trading Post.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah, so a lot of good work ethics and a lot of good people entered my life. It seemed at the right time.
well, it's an amazing story, and I know in 5 minutes, 8:30, your first talk with the students of Bosie's. They're in for a treat this morning, and with the other talk as well. And we really appreciate you sharing with us this morning. Again, fascinating how things come together. And you're an example of something that we had talked about earlier with one of our other guests, turning a tragedy into something that helps others. And
Absolutely.
you don't realize how many you could have helped, because we were talking about tomorrow's Out of the Darkness suicide prevention walk here in Thunder Country in Sullivan County. We appreciate your time this morning, Edward Coon. He's going to be visiting visiting Sullivan County Bosie's today. A former student of Sullivan County Bosie's. You can get information on Edward's books, contact information, all the links right now. Michelle has info, thunder102.com, Thunder 102 Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Edward, hopefully we'll get a chance to meet you face-to-face sometime.
Absolutely. It would be my honor.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. And again, Thunderheads, just an amazing story. You got to check this information out. Thunder102.com, Thunder 102 Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Edward Coon, former student, Sullivan County Bosie's, and he will be speaking at Bosie's starting in about 5 minutes, and then another talk coming up a bit later on.
And just such a great inspiration for all the kids at Bosie's that, listen to your instructors, listen to your teachers, and see, good things can happen to good people, and take what you learn now at a young age and do something with it.
Good way to look at it.
Siliberto. I don't like your attitude one bit. And Samorano.
Are you always so uptight?
Weekday mornings on Lightning Hot Country. Thunder 102.